I am the face of heart disease. My dad had his first heart attack at the age of 56, sudden death at the age of 59. I was 21 at the time. Needless to say, heart disease was not on the radar screen for me at all. When I turned to about 28, 29, I started having extreme rapid heart rate. I went to the emergency room, and the doctor told me at that time I had something called supraventricular tachycardia, also known as SVT. At that time, they treated me with medication and told me that it was something that I could live with. Unfortunately, over 30 years, that just seemed to become a nagging problem for me. I was in and out of the hospital many times, giving me more medication, but never a resolve. I had a life shift, and I moved from that particular area I was living in and moved to another area in Baltimore, Maryland. And then I ended up having a huge attack at one of the meetings. And I went to the hospital, not by ambulance, but I drove myself. And I was in a new area that I never knew. I followed the blue H signs to the hospital. When I got there, I told them what was going on, and they made me wait. I ended up waiting for about 20 minutes before someone came and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I need help now." They took me back and realized that at that point I was running about 230 beats a minute. They took some medication to help start the heart and got me back into what's known as a normal sinus rhythm. My cardiologist, the hero that I had in the emergency room, told me about an ablation. It is a procedure where they put wires through the groin into the heart and simulate the whole SVT, and then they burn those extra pathways. Well, to me that was scary. You're going to put something into my heart. This isn't going to work too well for me. So I waited for about 7 months before I decided to actually do the procedure. After doing some research, and I went to see an electrophysiologist, long word, electrophysiologist, and he did the procedure in 2004 with a success rate for me at about 95 to 97%. Today I still have runs of that SVT, but when it comes to that point that they ablated, it will come to an abrupt stop, which is very, very good. But it leaves me feeling like, is it going to happen again? My life went on, and it was a great time for me. I met a wonderful new gentleman in my life, and we got married at the end of 2004. We put aside our honeymoon and just decided we'd wait until the spring, because at that point we were building a new home and moving. In the early spring of April of 2005, we took a trip and then came back home, and I just felt extremely tired, the point of tiredness of like I was wrung out. But I had just attributed it to the fact that I had moved, I'd gotten married, new job, and traveled. And a few weeks later, my husband and I went to another little hideaway that we love in Williamsburg, Virginia. And on the way home, I said, "I'll drive, dear." And he said, "Oh, that'll be great." I got partway home, and I had to stop because I just didn't feel good. And I got home and just laid around for a few days. And I still was feeling so tired that I couldn't really do the daily activities. I called my primary care doctor, and she said, "Marilyn, just go to the emergency room." Well, nobody wants to hear those words. I said, "Can't I just come to you?" She said, "No, because if you go to the emergency room, all the tests that they do for you will be done and read immediately. If you come to me, you're going to wait maybe 7 to 10 days, depending on the testing." So I decided to bite the bullet and do that, but not until I had done the laundry, done the cooking, made sure that everything was set before I went in, and drove myself into the emergency room. They immediately did a cardiogram, and they did enzyme studies based upon my history, all of which were totally normal. But my hero cardiologist came in and said we should do a stress test. So we're going to keep you overnight. The next day they did a stress test for me, which was totally normal, including the nuclear stress tests that they do. He said, "You still don't look good. You need another test, and you'll stay overnight again." And I thought, oh, great. This is called a catheterization, and the catheterization was performed that morning. And in my fog at about 11 o'clock, the doctor who was doing the catheterization said, "Marilyn, I'm sorry, it's not good." And I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. And he said, "No, I'm sorry, you have 2 blockages that need immediate attention, and you need emergency bypass surgery." 6 hours later, I was having my chest cracked open for bypass. I didn't know what hit me. But it did hit me all of a sudden on a stretcher as I was being wheeled out. This is an old man's disease. The light bulb went on. My dad, I was wearing the jeans. He was 59, I was 59. It seemed to be that magic number for me. But I was lucky. I got into the hospital, had great surgery outcome for myself. I went to cardiac rehab, and that was one of the best things that I ever did, because through cardiac rehab I learned how to take care of myself that I hadn't been doing for a long time. Learning to eat right, learning to take care of exercising, which I hated to do. All of my numbers were good, except for my blood pressure, which I needed to keep in check. That was another gift I got from my mom. She had hypertension, but she also has atrial fibrillation. So with that being said, I now watch for those symptoms as well, because they do manifest as we do get older in life. For me to help other women in the community is another piece of Women Heart. So for me to get out into the community and do some community education is really key piece for me. And that's what I really want to see happen. And by doing that, they're going to learn more and more about what's important as far as women's heart health is concerned. Coming to this community, I did not know anybody, and so I feel very, very comfortable and very fortunate to have been embraced by Upstate Cardiology as well as St. Francis. They've done a great job of helping me on my path and my journey, and in turn I want to be able to do the same for others in this community.